Okay then, so what I'm going to do is go over the exam approach, what I would do when I open the question paper, and then I'm going to read it out loud to you, and then I'd expect you to pause the video at that point and go over, do the things that I talk about doing to the question types, so bugging the question, highlighting key things in the question, and then I will go on in the video to explain the next few slides to you. If you want to pause the video at certain points to carry on with those activities, then that might make sense. So I'll say you might want to pause now and do this activity before moving on to this one. Okay, so first of all, you have to open Week 6, Year 10, Language Paper 1, Component A, Reading. And this extract is by H.G. Wells. Okay, H.G. Wells, you might recognise the name of, because he is the guy that wrote War of the Worlds, which some of you studied in Year 9, and he's also referenced by J.B. Priestley in Inspector Calls as being one of those cranks. So that's where you kind of know his name from, okay? Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Okay then, so you open the paper and you see 5 questions, okay? So it says this is a 2-page document, exam question and marks are on the first page, extract is on the second page. Please make sure you read through both pages. After reading the exam questions, please read the whole text twice. So I'm going to go through the exam questions briefly. I'm going to read you the text, and then I'm going to ask you to pause, and I want you to go through and bug the questions and read the extract again. Okay, so you're really getting to know the extract really well before you even start trying to answer the questions. So read lines 1 to 15. Okay, so if I was doing this the first time, lines 1 to 15 is a crucial piece of information, okay? I need to know that I can't take evidence from any other lines or I won't get the mark from it. Okay, so from the first line to vanished together in the shadows, so if we go down to the extract, you can see that 1 is there and 15 is there. I know these line numbers are not, not the most official. It's quite hard to put line numbers into Google Docs for some reason, and you only actually need to know those line numbers, okay? So line 27 is just the last line, and it tells you till the end of the extract in the question, okay? So lines 1 to 15 are for questions 1 and question 2. List 5 things you learn about the Selenites. Now at this point, I would be like, what are Selenites or Selenites? I'm going to go with Selenites. But it does explain to you briefly, put the extract into context for you at the beginning, okay? So just assume you will find out something like that in the text if you're unsure. 2, how does the writer show the narrator's fear? And both of those questions are worth 5 marks, so I would be highlighting that. And then there might be some key words that I was going to underline in terms of my bugging. Okay, so 5 things would be key to underline there. Selenites would be key to underline there. Okay. It's also really, really important that I do really focus on the question and that I do get 5 ideas. Okay, I'm not going to bug the rest of them for you, okay, so I expect you to go back over this and do this in a minute. So 2 is about the narrator's fear. 3 is about the impression that you get of the Selenites. 4 is about how does the writer show the narrator is exploring a strange place that's kind of new to him. So you think about the way the narrator is saying things, but also the things that he's describing. And then question 5, this question you might refer to the whole extract. It's a statement question. The Selenites are very frightening creatures. To what extent do you agree with the statement? Okay, so I'm going to read it to you. If you want to skip over this and get on with this activity, that's fine. You might want to pause now. I am going to read it to you and you might want to pause after that as well. Carefully read the extract, then answer all of the questions about the extract. I don't actually want you to answer them straight off because the lesson is going to take you through them. This extract is from the novel The First Men in the Moon by H.G. Wells. In the story, 2 men, Bedford and Cavell, build a sphere and travel to the moon. While there, they are captured by creatures that live on the moon, which they call Selenites. Suddenly, the crack that had been admitting the light broadened out and revealed itself as the space of an opening door. Beyond was a sapphire vista, and in the doorway stood a grotesque outline silhouetted against the glare. We both made convulsive efforts to turn, and failing, we sat staring over our shoulders at this. My first impression was of some clumsy quadruped with a lowered head. Then I perceived it was the slender pinched body and short and extremely attenuated bandy legs of a Selenite, with his head depressed between his shoulders. He was without the helmet and body covering that they wear upon the exterior. He was a blank, black figure to us, but instinctively our imaginations supplied features to his very human outline. I, at least, took it instantly that he was somewhat hunchbacked, with a high forehead and long features. He came forward 3 steps and paused for a time. His movements seemed absolutely noiseless. Then he came forward again. He walked like a bird. His feet fell one in front of the other. He stepped out of the ray of light that came through the doorway, and it seemed as though he vanished altogether in the shadow. For a moment, my eyes sought him in the wrong place, and then I perceived him standing facing us both in the full light. Only the human features I had attributed to him were not there at all. Of course, I ought to have expected that, only I didn't. It came to me as an absolute, for a moment, an overwhelming shock. It seemed as though it wasn't a face, as though it must needs be a mask, a horror, a deformity that would presently be disavowed or explained. There was no nose, and the thing that had dull bulging eyes at the side, in the silhouette, I had supposed they were ears. There were no ears. I have tried to draw one of those heads, but I cannot. There was a mouth, downwardly curved, like a human mouth in a face that stares ferociously. The neck on which the head was poised was jointed in 3 places, almost like the short joints of a leg of a crab. The joints of the limbs I could not see because of the putty-like straps in which they were swathed, and which formed the only clothing the being wore. There the thing was, looking at us. Okay, so you might want to pause now. You need to go back through all of those questions yourself and then read the extract once more yourself. Okay, once you've done that activity, you go to slide 6. Okay. Slide 6 asks you question 1, list 5 things we learned about the selenites. I have started that off for you, and you can see that I'm writing in full sentences, okay? They have a slender pinch body, they are short. So it is important to answer in full sentences in this question. You might phrase it as 5 things I learned about the selenites are, colon, bullet point, they have a slender pinch body, they are short, etc. Either's fine as long as it's a full sentence. So you need to add 3 more ideas to finish that answer for question 1. Okay, and then you might want to pause the video now and do that. Remember to focus on the line numbers. Okay, then moving on to slide 7, which is task 5. This is some fact-based questions about question 2. So what should you write in a question 2 answer, and how many marks is question 2 worth? Moving on to slide 8, it gives you some more information about question 2, and you need to pick 3 of those things and explain them in your own words. So I'm not actually going to get you to try and answer question 2 in today's lesson, because I think there would be a bit too much to do. If you would like to write an answer to question 2 to challenge yourself, then you can stop now, create a new slide, and then just write a quick answer, and I'll give you a mark for that when I mark it next week. Then slide 9 does exactly the same thing as you've been asked about question 1 and question 2 so far. So 2 factual questions about question 3. So this is just testing your knowledge of what you have to do on the exam. So what do you write in the question 3 answer? How many marks is question 3 worth? And remember that you can go back to check those answers against the slide with all of the information about the questions on it. Okay, now the next task is a little bit bigger, okay? And I'm going to do a separate video to explain that one.